right, shalom to everybody. We're glad to be back and have an opportunity to refresh, strengthen ourselves again in Elohim's words and all that He's been so kind to show us. His kindness is actually quite overwhelming to me. The How we got here, I don't know, but I have to tell you, after getting here, I wouldn't go back. Uh, that's for sure. So, Shalom to each and every one of you. I hope that you're blessed. I hope that the words of the Shabbat were a blessing to you. We're going to continue on that vein in mind for some more gold nugget for quite some time. I'm quite sure this has been something that I've wanted to do and uh, and get recorded for future posterity. I guess if you could say it like that. Uh, but anyways, I hope you guys are blessed and living the true Torah life. Uh, we're going to pray, and Dave's going to blow the shofar, and we'll jump in. We're in chapter 50 of it. I think we just have next week, and we will be finished after 51 weeks of Ecclesiasticus wisdom. Uh, so hope you've been being blessed. Bless you, Father, today. Thank you for all your goodness. Thank you for the wonderful words that you constantly, from many, many different areas and directions, and that you help us to encounter those things. I bless you. I ask you to be with us. I ask you to help us today to live a successful life for you. And I thank you for it. Amen. Dave? All right, chapter 50 of the book of Ecclesiasticus, not to be confused with Ecclesiastes, although the wisdom, to be honest with you, in some ways, I think the wisdom is almost more profound. Uh, the more that we seek her, the more that we look for her, the more that we desire her. And you'll see that here, that's actually I don't know, maybe some of you guys are already doing this. Maybe a whole bunch of people are already doing it. But it does very much seem to me that there's an internal thing that people hear, and you can neither, I think you can maybe help foster it if it's there, but you can't make people want to fall in love with Elohim. You can't make people want to be obedient to Elohim. And so that's why I think for those people who want to do right, maybe none of us, I mean, good night. This has been an amazing journey in the last 20 years to come from being a Sunday worshiper to where I am now, folks. I guarantee you, I don't have a clue how I got here. I'm glad I am, but all the steps and twists and turns on a daily basis that Elohim used to get me here, for me, has been really phenomenal. Everything wasn't perfect, but everything is good because he's part of it and he's with us even when maybe we have some glitches. So anyways, I hope that you're working towards living as glitch-free a life as you can, and I'm not talking about I'm talking about a perfection of a heart. And so we've been in Ecclesiasticus. Sirach has been going through for a couple of weeks, at least a couple of chapters, maybe three. And he's just exposing and going over and recanting all the works of your past history. And I know this isn't our bloodline history, but this is a history of the progression of Elohim's words to get us here. And a lot of things that we really need to see. I'm kind of getting amped and excited when we finish this up. I think we're going to take off on a journey on Peter. And I think that might surprise you guys. Might be surprised at what history records compared to what Christianity records. Those two things are not the same. And so I hope that you guys will be a part of that. You really do need to look at history. History is more valid than the creation is. And so, anyways, he's just giving us that thing. We need to have thankfulness in our heart that Elohim would give people in front of us, Abrahams and Eliyahu's and Samuel's and David's and, you know, James the Just. So maybe any of us or maybe all of us are being a version of this, hopefully, in the eyes of those people that we will leave behind us. So Shimon the high priest, the son of Anyahu, who in his life repaired the house again, or built back the temple, after falling into disrepair. It seemed he went through cycles of this constantly. And in his days he fortified the temple, and by him was built from the foundation the double heights, the high fortress of the wall above the temple. In his days the cistern to receive water, being encompassed as the sea, was covered with plates of brass. He took care of the temple that it should not fall, and he fortified the city against besieging. So this high priest is a man of betterment of the things around him. He's the high priest, and yet he's also concerned about that we live a better life, and so he starts projects, you know, kind of, I guess, what really you would think that a president should be. He should be like this, since he's the person. He should come into America with the heart to get everybody going in the same direction and do everything to clean and defend his land so that he leaves it hopefully better than he found it. And we find that those things are in humanity are very cyclical. We had that here in America, at least seemingly on some levels, and we seem to have falling into a spell now where everything is like the temple was. It was in disrepair. It's funny that the scriptures tell us that where there is chaos, there is sin, and Satan is present. So all of this chaos that's going on in our society, folks, is an outworking of the accuser of the brethren, the one who stands in the presence of Elohim and condemns those that are trying to walk. And that's kind of a funny thing, you know. That was always put to me as the accuser, the devil, was against the Christians, folks. He's not against Christians. He's not against them. He's not quite all that he's been made to be, and he's not really concerned about a lot of the things that we think he is. The scriptures tell us he goes before Elohim and he accuses the right ones, the ones who are doing what? The ones who are keeping the Torah. I read it to you. I'm going to reiterate a second for you if I could. I'd like to take you to Saturday in Deuteronomy chapter 6. We read the whole chapter, but when we get to the end was the nugget that I needed all the context before it to fulfill for us, so that hopefully if you heard it and read it for yourself, then you saw that this is something that should be the mainstay of our life from the time we're little kids until we're old people. So listen, Moses says, our righteousness is obedience to the Torah. Now, I have to tell you, Paul stole it, or the Romans stole it, but it's actually a really, really early Hebrew, Yahwistic is a term that I've found that they use for such things, statement about Elohim. So what they told you, you heard and you got to see what Deuteronomy 6 says from Elohim's perspective about righteousness. What is righteousness? If somebody came to you today and said, sir, please give me the definition of righteous, what would you say? Would you do like all the preachers I've talked to that can't really give me a firm thing? It's breaking their religious doctrine. Well, that's sin, they say. But I go over here and their religious doctrine throws away the Torah or the instructions, so they're building a house without any blueprints. Okay, that's why the statement is used once again in the New Testament. Elohim has been really kind. He's been starting to show me how a lot of these things are there and how little they really had to manipulate to make their fake message. But it's always been there. Elohim gave us his word, and what makes us in sight with him, in line with him, is when we do what he said. That's righteousness. It ain't got nothing to do with whether you smoke. It ain't got nothing to do with whether you eat gummies. It ain't got nothing to do with whether you drink. It ain't got nothing to do with anything. Right? Except for those things that break the Torah. Now, we could go down the whole long list of the things in our society that are Torah breakers, you might say it like that, which is really a totally different environment. I was working today and I've been over and I thought, sometimes it's kind of hard to see how far we really have come. And then I stop and I think about some of this, and thank you to those people who were kind enough to let me know that they appreciated Saturday. I'm hoping for a lot more there's a new picture that is absolutely beautiful. It tells us some things that are pretty hard that we have to deal with. You can't change them. Elohim told us last week, we saw that all of those people who do not keep the Torah, so please listen, this is the mass majority of the world. But all of those people who do not keep the Torah, that they are diminished, they are destroyed, they are fractured, there's a lot of terms that you could actually fit into all of that, and I've been pondering that all week since last week. And I thought, it really is true though. I was, and some things in my life aren't probably in material ways probably aren't as good as they used to be, and then I have to just keep going. That better is a little with righteousness. So I would rather have this righteousness that I have and the understanding. We're not done. I'm not done. I don't have even a full definition of what true righteousness is, and then how do I apply that through the filter of the Torah into my everyday life? And so pretty interesting. That was really mainstream, folks, in the first century Hebrew and before. That's what they were trying to kill out. The book of Maccabees shows you that. The Romans wanted to kill anything that had to do with the Torah. Why? Because as long as people had access and knew what the Torah said and lived the Torah, they could never be successful. You have to kill it. How different is that from where we live now? For you to believe that a boy can be born a boy and flow into a girl, they have to manipulate your mind. And if they can manipulate your mind is fractured, because the scriptures tell us not to do that. That's why Elohim can say that. That's not a personal affront to anyone, because we're all broken. It's not talking that. It's talking about a spiritual situation. If you are broken spiritually, you can be led astray by your spirit to do any broken thing. Why? Because your spirit isn't focused on the Torah. It's the only thing that keeps us seeing what sin is. And at the same time, if we'll pay attention, it shows us what good is. Elohim did not give his commandments to destroy us, but to do good and give us life. That's a different message than I was taught my whole life, and it's starting to get ever clearer, and I'm so thankful for it, because it really is nice. Hey, it is what it is, right? Ain't much you can do to change it. You cannot like it. I'm sure there's been more than one preacher when I was growing up that said things I didn't like. So Shimon was a high priest, and he was interested in doing what's right. He took care of the temple that it should not fall, and he fortified the city against the besieging or against people taking over them. How was he honored in the midst of the people in his coming out of the sanctuary? He was as the morning star in the midst of a cloud, and as the moon at full, as the sun shining upon the temple of El Elyon, and as the rainbow giving light in bright clouds, and as the flower of roses in the spring of the year, as lilies by the rivers of waters, and as the branches of the frankincense tree in the time of summer. All very pleasant things. As fire and incense in the censer, and as a vessel of beaten gold set with all manner of precious stones, and as a fair olive tree budding forth fruit, as a cypress tree which grows up to the clouds. When he put on the robe of honor and was clothed with the perfection of glory, when he went up to the holy altar, he made the garment of holiness honorable. Now, just so you know, because it's reading verses like that that can sometimes lead us astray, because they were probably written, but we would never be able to see them, most probably, about all of the kings and all of the high priests that were not dealing honorably. Just a simple question, because I'm here and I'm going to continue to go here. It's absolutely amazing story, the whole concoction of it all. But do any of you know of a high priest named Annas? If you don't, you should really maybe think about paying attention and looking into Annas. Annas was the high priest. He was a Pharisee at somewhere probably pre the first 100 years of history. And he's the guy who pushed James off of the pinnacle of the temple, which is where the story supposedly, I'm actually getting some research information now that all of the story of Yeshua being driven out into the desert by the devil is actually a story of James. And James was the one, he wasn't taken up on a pinnacle and shown by the devil. In this situation, metaphorically, the devil was Annas the high priest. And Annas the high priest took him to the pinnacle of the temple, which is what we get in the New Testament, but it's a false verse. And then he's pushed off of the wall of the temple and hits the ground in the Jezreel Valley, and a fuller, a laundry person, and they used in that day, they used a club to beat the clothes in the water, and 3 different people, I think it was, were there, and so they ended the life of James the just, the righteous teacher from Qumran, and wow. It's just so amazing, man. There's so much stuff over there that they took and just twisted just enough to make it fit their need. And so we have to be careful. Why? Because our adversary is constantly around trying to deceive whoever he can. Whoever he can. He told us he's the righteous one, and what we have to do to be right with him. And what we have to do to be right with him, friend, is the Torah. I'm confused that, and I see why they killed so many first century Jews, and it was literally millions, because they would not bow to that doctrine. They wouldn't. There's no way they'd accept it. Manasseh's whole picture of the book of Manasseh would have just went on for years and years and years, and did. I believe Yeshua may have very well lived, and I believe he may have been an honorable man. And I believe if he was that, then he was a freedom fighter fighting for the Torah, just like them. And they put him on a thing for an insurrectionist, which makes sense. That's what they did to over 20,000 of them. Pilate had hung on trees. Cursed is the one who hangs on a tree, not blessed is the one who hangs on a tree. So now something that they concocted that's supposed to be holy needs to be cursed before it can do its work. Really? Isn't that like, well, Elohim said if I do this, that's good, but if I don't, then it's bad. But I did it and it was good. This doesn't make sense. So he, by his actions, by his character, by his righteousness, he was one of the Zadik at that time. There's been many Zadik, and there always is on the earth, Zadik. But that's all tied to the Torah. It has nothing to do with the New Testament, Jesus, or anything else, folks. That's all tied to the Torah. To be Zadik, to be righteous, you have to keep the Torah, or you're unrighteous, whether you like it or don't. I mean, I'm sorrowful if somebody stops by and you don't like my words. I'm sorrowful. I don't mean to offend you, but it's very clear what history and the scriptures, when they're looked at in a little different concept than Christianity, it's very simple to see that that's exactly what was happening. It's all been changed. They're two different stories. As I told a guy, I said, we're talking about two different gods. I'm going to tell you what the Elohim of Israel, what his commandments are out of the Torah, and you keep trying to go over here and tell me what your God says that you should do. If you believe your God, then stay a Christian and weep at the cross and put them in your ears and around your neck. And if you don't, if that's not true to you, then you're never going to do those things. So, because it's just not in you. I think there are people who have hearts that want to please Elohim and that see. I weep almost daily. Father, I'm so sorrowful that we shamed you so bad. And that is his heart. He's amazing. Amazing. We don't have to walk in bondage. When you take a hold of his Torah is what I need to focus on. All the rest of that's just religion. When he took the portions out of the priest's hands, he himself stood by the hearth of the altar and compassed about as a young cedar in Lebanon, and as palm trees compassed they him round about. So were all of the sons of Aharon in their glory, and the oblations of YEHOVAH in their hands, before all the assembly of Yisrael, and finished the service at the altar, that he might adorn the offering of El Elyon El Shaddai. He stretched out his hand to the cup, and he poured of the blood of the grape. See, that's a ritual, folks, that was done by the high priest in the temple. To those people, it wasn't at all strange. It was very sacred. But it wasn't because it was the body of some God-man. And he poured of the blood of the grape, he poured out at the foot of the altar a sweet-smelling savor unto El Elyon, King of all. Then shouted the sons of Aharon, and sounded the silver trumpets, and made a great noise to be heard for a remembrance before El Elyon. Then all the people together hasted and fell down to the earth upon their faces to worship their YEHOVAH Zebaot, or YEHOVAH, the captain of the army, El Elyon, the God. The singers also sang praises with their voices with great variety of sounds. Does that sound quiet to any of y'all? Doesn't to me. And they made sweet melody, and the people besought YEHOVAH El Elyon by prayer before him that is merciful, till the solemnity of YEHOVAH was ended, and they had finished his service. Then he went down and lifted up his hands over the whole assembly of the children of Yisrael, to give the blessing of YEHOVAH with his lips, and to rejoice in his name. And they bowed themselves down to worship the second time, that they might receive a blessing from El Elyon. Now therefore bless ye Elohim of all, which only does wondrous things everywhere, which exalts our days from the womb, and deals with us according to his mercy. He grant us joyfulness of heart, and that peace may be in our days in Yisrael forever. Wow. This is how they worshiped. They went to church and they fell on their faces and they prayed prayers, and they were moved and convicted by this Ruach HaKodesh, and it affected them, and they had a conscience. Wow. He granted us joyfulness of heart. here's a question I'd like to say, because there's some things that are all tied into this. If you'll listen, you'll pick up some of these things that I'm learning and that are coming out. Did you see what that just said? That one little simple line that probably a billion people have read over and it never meant anything? But I try to catch these things because they're so beautiful to the nuances of who he is. And I sometimes will find something, Elohim will expose it to me, and I'll take it, and then I'll be using it 4 days later. All of a sudden, I'll just find myself recanting that and doing whatever it tells me to do. And look at what it says to do. Well, it's where we get what we're supposed to do. He grant us joyfulness of heart. That's quite strange to me. Would it be unusual to find out that he only does that to Zadik, to people who are righteous, who are living? You understand, Zadik in their culture meant you lived flawlessly. I don't think that's necessarily the proper understanding. I believe a Zadik absolutely knows how they want to live, but they also absolutely struggle with their humanity. And that's where mercy's supposed to come in. Okay, I know I erred. If somebody confesses their faults one to another, there's supposed to be healing that goes on. That doesn't even exist in our society. In fact, if people can find things where you've messed up, they'll use them against you faster than anything. Which is why that whole verse, I was coached all the way through 30 years of Christianity that, oh, you better not tell anybody what your flaws are in the church, because if you do, everybody in the church will know. And you know what? Unfortunately, I found that to be a very true statement. It wasn't a false statement. What it was is sad that that's reality. Isn't it that we all really do realize how much mistakes we make? I'd ask you, I can't say all the words, but I would ask the real thing that's important, which is, am I the only one that sees it? I don't think so. I think there must be other people that see it. So they bow themselves to him and worship him, fall on their face and weep, and then they bow themselves a second time, and then they get blessed. And they focus on what Elohim's word has promised them. Now therefore bless ye Elohim of all, which only does wondrous things everywhere, which exalts our days from the womb, and deals with us according to his mercy. He grants us joyfulness of heart. And the point I was trying to make, if you didn't pick up on it, was that it's quite a strange statement that he would grant. That means a grant is somebody giving you something. So what if the only people that will truly have Elohim's joyfulness of heart are the Zadik, or those who are walking righteously, because those are the ones he told us he would give joyfulness of heart. So maybe some of us have never really fully even experienced that in the course of our whole life. If we haven't, certainly be a good day to amend our ways and begin to try to look Elohim in the face and have him look at us and help us. And that peace may be in our days in Yisrael forever, that he would confirm his mercy with us and deliver us at his time. Humility. There be two manner of nations which my heart abhors. So all of that's been good. That's all about the priesthood and the goodness and the kindness of Elohim, and some worship pictures about maybe how we should look at what we're doing and how we do what we do. But there be two manners of nation which my heart abhors. And the third is no nation. They that sit upon the mountain of Shomeron, so the 10 tribes, and they that dwell amongst the Pelishtim, and that foolish people that dwell in Shechem. Well, you know about Shechem. The Pelishtim, you should know plenty about it. They're under maybe a different name. The Philistines, the same people, or descendants of the same people that are fighting Israel right now in the Gaza Strip, which was part of the land of the Philistines. and Shomeron, who was the 10 tribes of Israel that were separated from Yehuda and Benjamin. And Yahushua, the son of Sirach of Jerusalem, has written in this sefer the instruction of understanding and knowledge, without who out of his heart poured forth wisdom. Blessed is he that shall be exercised in these things. And he gets in next week into, it's really a pretty chapter, 51 is, for those people who desire her. Blessed is he that be exercised in these things, and he that lays them up in his heart shall become wise. For if he do them, he shall be strong to all things. For the light of YEHOVAH leads him. Leads me besides where? Still water. Beds me down in where? Green grass. For if he do them, he shall be strong to all things. You do understand that part of the agenda in America is to weaken the male, right? Have you noticed that there's, and it's not going on everywhere in the world, but it is certainly going on in America. What America is trying to do is to get the same thing as a polar shift would do to the earth. They're trying to get everything upside down, okay? Men become feminine and feminine become men. That's why you see women who are what the modern species of most of them are like, and you see men being feminized at 1,000 miles an hour. There's a reason for that. So, for if he do them, if this man does these things that are spoken to us, that will lead us to wisdom, because wisdom will only help you if you are looking at the Torah through the eyes of the Torah. If you are only looking at your light through the eyes of the Torah, if you judge every thought, every action, every behavior by the Torah, will you make some mistakes? Unfortunately, yes. Will you have a whole lot more successes and have more peace? Absolutely. I believe anyway. Doesn't make always things better. Sometimes it just makes them harder, and now you're expected to handle them even better. For if he do them, if he, the man, does them, he shall be strong to all things. For the light of YEHOVAH will lead him. I'll pose the question. Who does the light of YEHOVAH lead? If we go backwards. So the light of YEHOVAH will lead him. There's a reason why it will lead him. Who is it going to lead? And we can just trace backwards. We can go over ground I've already walked on. I've shared it, but who accepted it or listened or gave heed to it, that's a different story. For if he do them, he shall be strong to all things, for the light of YEHOVAH leads him. See, Elohim knows that he's leading you because you're doing the right thing. So in other words, actually in reality, folks, you can't do everything yourself is a very true statement. You can't walk into righteousness by yourself. You ain't good enough, and no other humans are. The righteousness that comes has to be mixed with the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit of the living Elohim, and he does that by opening your eyes. Check it out. This is so beautiful. This is amazing. For if he do them, he shall be strong to all things. So, in other words, not weakness. Weakness in other countries, it's not so. It used to be in America, but it is in other countries. Strength is glorified. Putin is not looked down upon because he's hard in Russia. Over here, if you're hard, If you're a hard leader, they hate you and want to charge you millions of dollars and lie about you, and they'd love to throw you in jail and shut you up. And in other countries, it's not like that. In other countries, people's minds are not quite as corrupt as ours, and they would actually like somebody who does the hard thing. He shall be strong to all things, for the light of YEHOVAH leads him, who gives wisdom to the righteous. See, so you don't get wisdom so you can be righteous. You will make the decision. Isn't it wonderful how Elohim put this here 10,000 years ago, knowing that tonight I would speak that with what I spoke on Saturday? Is anybody connecting the dots that all of this stuff isn't accidental? I promise you, I didn't spend 25 years so that that word would pop up the Wednesday after. It just did it on its own. So Elohim gives wisdom, he leads them, and he gives them wisdom, but he only gives wisdom. Please, gosh, I wish you guys could get a hold of it like what I'm saying. Wisdom is not giving, true Elohim wisdom is not given to anything but the righteous. No matter what you've been told. Blessed be the name of YEHOVAH forever. Amen. Amen. A prayer of Yahushua, the son of Sirach, who was Ben Adam. Sirach ben Adam. He was Sirach, the son of man. But he was also Sirach ben Elohim, son of Elohim. So he's the son of God and the son of man. Oh my goodness, did you know that you're the son of God and you're also the son of man if you are walking in Elohim's Torah? Did you know that? You can put after your name, you can go write that check and you can write your name, Ben Adam, Ben Elohim. I'm the son of man and I'm the son of Elohim. See, it wasn't as foreign a thing. The Hebrews don't look at all of that you read in the New Testament the same. They know what it's about because it's all Hebrew. It's corrupted by Romans, but the principles, a lot of them remained. It would have been understanding for them to say Yahushua ben Elohim. He was. He was also Yahushua ben Adam, the son of Adam. In fact, there's a whole circle, if you do any research at all, there's a whole circle in the Talmud that says they've never believed that he was anything but a man. And that's many places around the world, including Islam. Islam has him in there. And he was a man. Actually born, some say, by Pantera, a Roman guard was his father. There's a whole teaching on that. God goes through all kinds of history to show you how Yeshua and James' true father was Pantera, a Roman soldier. Wow. You didn't know that, did you? There's a lot going on in the world, guys. The scriptures tell us that when the book of Enoch begins to be released and exposed again, and we're going to look at some Enoch on if not this Saturday, probably the next Saturday, we will get into the book of Enoch. Has a fair bit to say about righteousness and what it is and how we get it and how we keep it. Because I don't want to just find the truth and get here and then lose myself. The only thing that fears that I won't get there is that once I get there, I will lose myself, and I don't want to do that. And I'm sure there's many people that don't want to do that. I want to find the right path, and then I want to walk it in peace, even if life isn't always so peaceful. And it's not. We all know that. So Baruch atah. Blessed are YEHOVAH Eloheinu. Blessed are you, YEHOVAH our Elohim. Wow. Blessed are you. I understand now why they, I've seen that even in some movies. You see it, Fiddler on the Roof. Blessed is, you know, and it's like, okay, now I see why they do it. They're constantly giving him thanks for being in part of their life. And then we certainly should be. I believe that's also part of righteousness, is to give thanks. So I hope you guys are blessed. I hope that some of these words are helping you. But it's for sure and for certain Elohim is being very kind as far as showing revelation so that those who will adhere and hear him can take up their righteousness. Because honestly, folks, in the spirit realm, do you understand how much damage has been done to humanity by this one lie concocted in Palestine? A lot. Humanity's been destroyed. And of course we know that our adversary, that's his goal. He comes to lie, cheat, steal, cause confusion and chaos, turn people against each other, make people kill other people. And then he's going to stand in the Shamayim and accuse every one of us before Elohim, tell him how horrible, worthless we were, and he ought to kill us. But Elohim sees for himself. And that's what we need to begin to do, is to see for ourselves. If you can see it, you can accomplish it. I'm sure every one of you would, at some levels, would agree with that. So, but I think we have to see it before we can ever be it. So, well, shalom to each and every one of you. I hope you've been blessed. We'll be back, Elohim willing. We'll be back on Shabbat. Thank you for those that have reached out and once again and said that you appreciated the message and the truths that were found. And thank you. So, Father, bless you today. Thank you for your wonderful goodness. Thank you once again. What amazing word. Soft and kind, but hard, and really makes a defining line. This is good and that's not. And if you call that good, then you're, wow, it's not good for you. I don't want to be that. I want to call what you call good, good, and I want to call what you call bad, bad. And I don't want to get the two mixed up or mixed together. So, Baruch atah YEHOVAH Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Blessed are you, King of the universe. You are the King. You are the King, the Prince of Peace, the King above all kings. Above you there is no other King. That is YEHOVAH. Amen and amen. Dave? All right, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Blessings to you guys. We will be back then.